Halloween, a time for costumes, candy, and a good scare. But sometimes, the stories we tell around the campfire aren't just fiction. Tonight, we're dimming the lights and diving into some truly unsettling tales that are all too real. These aren't your typical haunted house stories. They're strange, unexplainable events that happened on Halloween night. So, grab your pumpkin spice whatever, get comfortable, and prepare to question that noise you just heard down the hall. Our first story comes from a user named Park Ranger Pat and takes place deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Pat was on the late shift on Halloween night, a notoriously quiet evening at the park. Most people were out trick-or-treating, not hiking. He was making his final rounds, checking the trailheads near the park's edge. The air was crisp, and the full moon cast long, dancing shadows through the skeletal trees. As he pulled up to the Black Creek Trail entrance, his headlights caught something odd. Tied to the main signpost was a single, wilted black rose, fastened with a piece of old-fashioned velvet ribbon. This was unusual. The park had a strict leave-no-trace policy. Pat got out, figuring it was a harmless Halloween prank. As he reached to untie it, he noticed a small rolled-up piece of parchment tucked into the ribbon. He carefully unrolled it. Written in elegant, almost archaic calligraphy were just 4 words. "She still waits for you." A chill, colder than the autumn air, crawled up his spine. Who was she, and who was you? He scanned the darkness around him. The woods were dead silent, not even a cricket chirped. He felt an overwhelming sense of being watched. He quickly got back in his truck, locking the doors. As he drove away, he glanced in his rearview mirror. For a split second, he swore he saw a tall, slender figure in a dark, old-fashioned dress standing by the signpost right where the rose had been. He blinked, and it was gone. He never saw the figure again, but every Halloween, the park staff find a single black rose tied to that same sign. They've stopped removing them. Some things, they've learned, are better left undisturbed. Next, we travel to a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. This story was shared by a woman named Clara. When she was about 10 years old, she went trick-or-treating with her best friend, Liam. It was a perfect Halloween cool, but not cold, with a festive energy in the air. They were hitting the last street on their route, a long cul-de-sac lined with houses that went all out with decorations. As they approached the very last house, they noticed it was different. It was dark. No jack-o'-lanterns, no spooky sounds, not even a porch light on. Liam, ever the daredevil, wanted to ring the doorbell anyway. It's the last house. "We have to," he insisted. Clara felt a strange knot of dread in her stomach, but she didn't want to look like a scaredy cat, so she agreed. They walked up the cracked concrete path. An old, gnarled oak tree in the front yard seemed to loom over them. Liam pressed the doorbell. They waited. Nothing. He pressed it again, longer this time. Suddenly, the porch light flickered on, bathing them in a sickly yellow glow. The door creaked open, just a sliver. An old woman with a kind, wrinkled face peered out. "Oh, my dears," she whispered, her voice raspy. "I'm afraid I don't have any candy." Liam started to say that's okay, but the woman interrupted. "But I do have something for you." She held out 2 small polished stones, smooth and gray. They each took one. It felt strangely warm in their hands. "Hold on to these," she said, her eyes twinkling in a way that wasn't entirely friendly. "They'll keep the shadows away." And with that, she gently closed the door. The porch light went out, plunging them back into darkness. They ran back to Clara's house, half scared, half laughing about the weird encounter. Later that night, as Clara was sorting her candy, she heard a scratching sound at her bedroom window. She peeked through the blinds and saw nothing but the swaying branches of the tree in her backyard. But the scratching continued, rhythmic and insistent. She clutched the stone the old woman had given her. As soon as her fingers wrapped around it, the scratching stopped. For the rest of her childhood, whenever she felt scared or had a nightmare, she would hold that stone, and the fear would recede. Liam reported the same thing. They never saw the old woman again. The next year, the house was empty with a for sale sign in the yard. To this day, Clara keeps that stone on her nightstand. Strange gift from a stranger on Halloween. A charm against shadows she can't see, but sometimes still feels. Our final story for tonight is perhaps the most perplexing. It comes from a former 911 dispatcher named Marco, and it happened on Halloween night in the late 1990s. The emergency lines are always chaotic on Halloween prank calls, minor incidents, the usual. But one call that night has stuck with him for over 2 decades. It came in around 11 p.m. The line was completely silent. Marco followed protocol, stating, "911, what is your emergency?" Still silence. He was about to disconnect, assuming it was a pocket dial, when he heard it. Faintly, in the background, a music box was playing Pop Goes the Weasel. It was slow, distorted, and slightly off-key, as if the mechanism was old and broken. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Marco asked, his voice firm. The music box continued its creepy, halting tune. Then a child's voice, a little girl, whispered directly into the phone. It was so clear, it sounded like she was in the room with him. All she said was one word, "Goodbye," and the line went dead. Marco immediately tried to trace the call. The system, however, came back with an error he had never seen before. The call had no origin. No number, no address, no cell tower ping. It was as if the call had come from nowhere. He and his supervisor tried every trick they knew, but the call was a digital ghost. There was no record of it ever existing, except for Marco's own memory and his frantic scribbled notes on a pad. He felt a profound sense of unease. It wasn't just a prank. The technology made that impossible. A call has to come from somewhere. The little girl's whisper, the sad, broken melody of the music box. ... It haunted him. He checked missing person reports, but there were no cases that matched in his area. It was a complete and total mystery. An impossible phone call. Marco says that sometimes, when he's alone in a quiet room, he thinks he can hear the faint, tinny notes of that music box. A chilling reminder of the Halloween night when a voice from nowhere reached out and said goodbye. And that's where we'll leave it for tonight. 3 stories, 3 strange and unsettling encounters on the one night of the year when the veil between worlds is said to be at its thinnest. Are they paranormal events, elaborate pranks, or just tricks of the mind? I'll let you be the judge. Remember to be safe out there and maybe keep a light on tonight. What's the spookiest thing that's ever happened to you on Halloween? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed these stories and want more creepy content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.